Ladies and gents, good evening. It is Thursday, the 21st of April, 2022. Welcome on board. It is the prodigious, the prominent Professor Johnson. I just want to say ever so sorry. I was around a furry cat yesterday. I stood taking the antihistamine. My eyes, my nose, and my ears felt blocked up and they've been streaming. But thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. We've got car incidents, UK politics, and criminology inside Essex. No sports updates. No local sports updates just yet, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for tuning in, for both staying preserved and observed. Thank you ever so much for tuning in. Think safety, think first. Methodical, the way I approach my radio every single day. We get lots and lots of listeners day in, day out. We get about 2,000 a week. I appreciate everyone coming through. Before I move on to car instance, I just want to let people know, why do you not get involved in politics? Help shape up your children's future, your niece, your nephew. Your safety is paramount. The way people act, the way people speak, the way people treat one another. There's always someone worse off than another. Protect your safety. Your safety is paramount. Anyway, think safety, think first. Do not enter a vehicle under sleep deprivation under the influence of alcohol or narcotics. Make sure you got driving license, your car's taxed, insured, MOT'd. Sounds very ironic, doesn't it? Sounds, but people do not take the law by as it should. People drive a car under the influence of alcohol. People drive a car without driving license. People drive a car without insurance and tax, and a car MOT'd. Check your PSI limits. Your PSI limits on the side of your treads. Check your treads as well. Make sure your tyres are not bowled. Make sure you and passengers are on board of seat belts. Babies that have a seat belts adjacent to the car seat. Check for further police actions. Road safety signs. Check for road workers. Road signs. Road worker signs. Check and make sure road workers are not leaving behind their house fencing. Driving vigilantly around roadworks when you see signs or see the roadworks itself. Check your centre mirror and wing mirror before acting into a safe, sufficient directional choice. I only just started driving. I've been doing this for about 3-4 years now. I shouldn't really care about how the other occupants on the road. I don't drive, but I clearly do. I've got niece and nephew, I've got mum and dad, I've got brother and sister, aunties, uncles. I care about all their safety. All their safety is paramount. It'd be nice if everyone done the same, but it's not quite. Everyone's not quite as puristic as I, unfortunately. But there you go. It's just the way of the world. The way of the world. Some people are incompetent, or they think they know better, or a bit flash. They've got to act to hang about with their friends, walk around like sheep, get a name for themselves. But that's just the way of the world, unfortunately. People. I'm quite happy living here on my own. Quite happy doing my own thing, trying to make safety throughout the UK, throughout the world actually, because we've got listeners coming in from all over the world, not just the UK. I'm looking out for everyone. These little guided tour how to use your car safe to stop incidents on the road makes more sense than sense itself. I think they need more people out there like me. Absolutely. Anyway, what happens on the road works? What happens on the road works? Why would I give out road? Road direct. We call it road direction. Why would I give out road direction? You have car incident, you have road works, you have congestion, you have road closure, you have lanes closed, and you have weather incidents. But me giving you a guided tour to make you also think about planning your destination. What could happen at the road? You could miss your hospital appointment. You could miss your wife giving birth to your child. Maybe you're taking her on the way and the road's blocked. You didn't think about planning your destination, but now the road's blocked. You've got to go a different diversion. Without checking your route, you could be late of the arrival of your newborn son or daughter. You could be late for a heart operation, your grandfather, your nan, your father, your mother. Plan your destination. Very important. I've done So I practice what I preach. Actually, you can say that quite clearly because I didn't plan my route on the way home the other day. Coming back from Hatfield, on the way to Hatfield. Sorry, there was a lane that was closed, but I was lucky. I was only in the lane closure for about 5 minutes. Then it opened. Very very lucky. I didn't plan my destination. I set off without even looking past my nose. Anyway, let's look at the incidents inside the UK. We have one on the near the M25, Launders Lane, road closed. Fire department activity on Launders Lane between Warwick Lane and A1306 New Road. 5:15 p.m. first reported. Central London A10 partially blocked and slow traffic due to crash on A10 Shoreditch High Street both ways at Bateman's Row. Detour in operation. London bus service 26th 149 and 242. This is reported at 8 p.m. this evening. Very, very recent. A213, road closed and queuing traffic due to a gas leak. Croydon Road eastbound from A214, Elmers End Road to Oak Grove Road. Detour in operation. Bus routes affected 75, 197, 356, 358 and N3. 3:22 p.m. Oh, my nose is streaming. Sorry, guys. M20 near Canterbury. Speed restriction due to operation. Brook, where all freight traffic heading for a channel crossing must go through the Cund area on M20. Coastbound between Junction 8, Leeds, Castle, Maidstone services and Junction 9, Ashford. Detour and operations. All other traffic not heading. 3:40 p.m. first reported. We're going to look at Southampton. We're going a bit wider. We're going a bit wider on the globe. B3354. Road closed due to burst water main on B3354 Botley Road, both ways between B3037 Mortimer's Lane and South Knoll Lane, affecting bus route Blue Star 3. That is bang centre of south of England. Right at the bottom of the south of England. Can get much more south apart from Portsmouth. Then you've got the Isle of Wight, which is across the channel for Portsmouth. Anyway, A38. This is west of England. A38. Road closed due to a crash. A van and motorbike involved at A38 both ways between Norton and the Lee. 4:05 p.m. Sorry, I'm a bit late today. I've been out campaigning with the Conservative Party. Doing my good deed as a good community standard of a human being. Absolutely. Oh, we're going to look at UK politics. Before we look at UK politics, why don't you get involved in a party policy? Conservative, Labour, Lib Dem, SNP. I'm going to sell you Conservative Party, absolutely. And the reason why, because they're the ones, the years at the realm, the beginning of politics. We had the Conservative traditional. That's why it's called traditional, because it's Conservative. I can go back many, many moons. William Gladstone. Oh, loads and loads of many names I can remember. I can't remember their names, but Harold Wilson is another one. Anyway, MPs say asbestos must go from public buildings within 40 years. You get involved with the Conservative by £25 a year. I think it's £5 for under, I don't think it's under 18s, but perhaps, or under 16s. And it's £15 for army. Any army, any royal services as well. So, yeah, what you get for your £15, your £25 and your £5? You get to join in local campaigns, local Conservative events. I'm just saying this off the top of my head. I've got nothing in front of me reading. I'm saying this all off the top of my head, all off the cuff, so bear with me. I'm just trying to reiterate in my mind what I've seen previously. You get to go to local Conservative events, get to stand as MP, stand as a councillor, get your voice heard. You want to get your opinion heard. It's all right, studying politics, but you got to have done a bit of hard, the groundwork, the hard work, the manual work. There's not many MPs or councillors have done the manual work. MPs are called for a 40-year deadline for all asbestos to be removed from public and commercial buildings. The Work and Pensions Select Committee said asbestos remained the biggest cause of work-related deaths in the UK. More than 5,000 such fatalities were recorded in 2019. The Health and Safety Executive estimates that asbestos may still be present in 300,000 non-domestic buildings and in many more homes, despite long-term efforts to remove it. There is currently no target date for the eradication of the material in public buildings and private homes in the UK. Asbestos is classified as being carcinogenic, which means it can cause cancer and other dangerous lung conditions when fibres are inhaled. The use of any type of substance was banned in the UK in 1999. More about asbestos. Asbestos is a general name given to several naturally occurring minerals that have crystallized to form fibres. These fibres are strong, heat and chemical resistant, and do not dissolve in water or evaporate, leading to asbestos being widely used in building and construction. Before I move on, when you get asbestos on a building site, you're doing a little extension on a building site, say, try to break into the new drainage or whatever, you find asbestos in the pipes. They condemn the site. You need to get asbestos people in to come and remove it. You get that, you get them molecules in your lungs. It can cause illness. Now, many building firms try to deny the fact that it's there and work through it, then later try and make a claim. Before its use was banned, it featured in many everyday products, including insulation material for buildings, boilers and pipes, car brakes and floor tiles. There are two types: serpentine, white asbestos, and amphibolis, including blue and brown asbestos. Serpentine was more commonly used. The importation, supply and use of all asbestos has been banned in the UK since 1999. The amphiboil type, which is much more hazardous, has been banned since 1985. Asbestos is not considered harmful when large pieces are undamaged, but when it is damaged, it can release small fibres that are breathed in or swallowed. Inhaling asbestos can lead to a condition called asbestosis, which means an increased susceptibility to cancer. Problem to get worse. The Work and Pensions Committee warned that while extreme exposures might be a thing of the past, the risks were likely to escalate. The retrofitting of buildings to meet zero requirements meant more materials containing asbestos would be disturbed in the coming decades, the MPs have said. While both the HSE and the government have said they believe it should be removed, the committee said neither had put forward a clear and comprehensive strategy for achieving this. It wants all asbestos removed for non-domestic buildings within 40 years, starting with the highest risk settings, such as schools, saying a clear deadline would help to focus minds. It's quite shambolic, the biggest judiciary in the UK. It's got asbestos in the building. You think they look after their safety, as they do look after everyone else's safety, really. In hindsight, let's not talk about Captain Hindsight, but in hindsight right now, you'd think they look after their own health before anyone else's. Clearly, they're not. It's inside Parliament. You see a lot of critics, trying to con the politicians for what they do, but they're only trying to oversee our welfare, oversee this whole society's welfare. You can't give but thanks and praise for what they do. They're not the same as doctors. They're not as paid as good as a professional footballer, professional boxer, professional athlete with all these sponsors they get. Not at all. But they do get more pay rise in NHS. Let's not justify the fact that it's okay for the NHS not to be getting pay rises just as much as a politician because they save their lives too. Simple reliance on a set of regulations which dissolve asbestos management to individual duty holders, building owners or managers responsible for maintenance would not be good enough, the committee has said. We need a pan-government and system-wide strategy for the long-term removal of asbestos, founded on strong evidence and what is best from a scientific, epidemiological and behavioural point of view. The government has been approached for comment. I'm not sure what your thoughts are about that. I know a lot of people go, politicians deserve this, deserve that. When I say that, not in a sincerity way where they deserve what they get or more, in a way where people put them down, the critics get involved and try and put politicians down. I agree, politicians deserve what they get. NHS deserve what politicians get too. Because they do save lives, actually save lives. Bear with me a moment, ladies and gents. Professional athletes do the job they love? I don't know. Do they deserve what they get? That's the question. Do they deserve what they get? Oh, bear with me. I was just trying to have a short break. I've got to share these car incidents on Twitter, as you know. I'm busy, I'm on air, and we need to let people know what car incidents are upon the road in the UK. People drive safely, and they think about planning their destination to avoid further road congestion, road incidents.
Does anything get better from here for the PM?
It seems to go from bad to worse and worse to bad and backwards and forwards. I'm slightly in despair at these MPs on the Conservative Party who stand up and on their hind legs and pontificate. The fact is, this is a moment of international crisis. It's a moment of national crisis. And these guys need to be careful what they wish for. Steve Baker, as he said himself, has already got rid of one Prime Minister, so he's now trying to get rid of the second. I mean, who on earth does he think he is?
Well, he's an elected Member of Parliament.
Well, he's an elected Member of Parliament who was for a short time a minister, but has spent most of his time being disruptive and complaining.
Well, he's allowed to criticise, isn't he? That's part of the function of democracy.
He's allowed to criticise and complain. He does it quite regularly, and he seems to do it with relish, as he said today. And I've got rid of one Prime Minister. Probably it's time another went. Of course, he's entitled to his views. Everyone's entitled to their view, but I think people need to be careful what they wish for. We're at a time of crisis. It's the wrong time to change a Prime Minister. There will be a time where the Prime Minister should be changed. And as you said so clearly in your excellent entry, there are lots of ifs and buts. But when will, there's no clarity yet as to whether the police are going to find him again or whether Sue Gray is going to come out with a terrible indictment. I mean, what will be a terrible indictment is what the civil service has done in number 10, and that will be potentially a greater issue.
What do you mean, what the civil service have done in number 10?
Well, it has been clear that a lot of these fines have been, and I'm told there are 60, have been given to civil servants and
special advisors.
And special advisors. So there was a tremendous amount of activity going on, which the police will deem will be either illegal or not.
But do you think, Lord Marland, that Boris Johnson is responsible in any way, shape or form for what happens in Downing Street?
I don't think Boris Johnson is responsible for what civil servants did in Downing Street and the Cabinet Office.
The Cabinet Office is a separate place.
What people kind of need to know, and this is not in defence of this at all, is by way of explanation, that number 10 Downing Street has several hundred people working it 24/7, particularly during the COVID crisis. The Prime Minister happens to live there, as well as have to
with respect,
mingle every day with these people who, not unsurprisingly, with all the pressures and strains, and not forgivably, but not unsurprisingly, as human beings, decided to let off some steam.
Well, so why is the Prime Minister saying he accepts responsibility for what happens in Downing Street under his name?
Well, because that's what Prime Ministers have to do. That's what ministers have to do.
You don't think he should?
Despite the fact that it may well not be him who is to blame. It may be the civil servants or the people who work in number 10 Downing Street who have been the initiators of all this. And I remember when I was in government, my private secretaries always say to me, Minister, you shouldn't be doing that because it's against the law. You shouldn't be doing this. And so I think quite a lot of the microscope needs to come under the.
Sorry, Lord Marland. I just want to pick up on that for a second.
Yeah, sure.
You're suggesting here that Boris Johnson should not really be taking responsibility for not just the actions of civil servants in breaking the COVID laws, but actually for his own breaking the COVID laws, because some civil servants.
How long is that Partygate business going to go on for? Please, it's driving me mad. It's like it's almost like talking about COVID, isn't it? It's like coherent news, just repeating itself daily. What's so bad about what he's done, really? When are they going to drop it? I spoke about the necessary content that matters. I mean, at the end of the day, if Boris Johnson did resign for whatever reason, it'd be crazy too, because at the end of the day, what has he brought to the table? Obviously you get the people from left, right, or centre, or politics, critics, wherever, all over the globe. On the inquest of what he has done, it's past Brexit. You voted for it. He gave you it. So that's going to always be in history that you'll remember. There's a war. We could have intervened under any other Prime Minister, and that other Prime Minister hid out in another country like Tony Blair did. We could sit here all day and try and criticise the critics being inhumane because they're just on the other side of the fence of politics. Boris passed Brexit. Boris also built bigger, better airports, allowing more wheelchairs to get in, and they're also getting people with disability to the front of the queue, not having to queue up in the long queues. It's also built bigger and better infrastructure, better roads, better airports, better hospitals. The schools, they're looking after more funding is going into looking after children with disability. There's a lot of good things that has been done. There's also, when COVID was happening and everyone was having a public austerity, don't forget, when you got furloughed off work, you got money to sit on your bum and scratch your backside. So be thankful for what has happened, rather than sit there and become a critic on social media. Motorcyclist who died in Harlow crash is named as inquest opens into his death. He tragically died at scene. Do you know what? I talk about politics daily. It's my bread and butter. Since I've been doing it, the whole of my Facebook's thinking, oh, I know politics now because he's doing it. I've been studying it every single day of the week. You get your couch potato politician, or you get your couch potato person that thinks they know politics. I'm reading propaganda day in, day out, every single day of the week. It's not something I just fell into. Been doing it for 4 or 5 years. Solid. Motorcyclist who died in a crash in Essex has been named for the first time. The inquest into the death of Ricky Petrie was opened at Essex Coroner's Court today, Thursday, April the 21st. I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but I'm not just known on YouTube, I'm not just known on Castbox, I'm not just known on Spotify, Google FM, I think, Radio FM, podcast. You know, I'm known here, there, and ever. It's Proclamation News and Gavin. Just Google it, you find it. It's because I'm methodical in my approach. I enjoy it. It's what I like to do. People try and change me to do this, do that. This is what I'm doing. This is me. If you don't like it, don't talk to me, because I'll just get on with my day-to-day regime. Thank you very much. Anyway, Mr. Petrie, 32, from Hertford in Hertfordshire, was travelling on his motorbike in Elizabeth Way, Harlow, on April the 3rd this year, when he was involved in a crash with a car. Emergency services rushed to the scene at around 11 a.m. But tragically, Mr. Petrie could not be saved, and he was declared dead at the scene. Police blocked off the road for some time while paramedics worked and investigations were carried out and forensic samples taken. The road remained closed for most of the day before being reopened in the evening. At Coroner's Court today, Andre Comenci, Coroner's officer, said he was involved in a road collision in Harlow on April 3rd and was declared dead at the scene by paramedics. A provisional cause of death has been given as a multiple injuries. Area Coroner Michelle Brown said, I formally opened the inquest touching upon the death of Ricky Petrie, who died on April 3rd, 2022. The police have formally asked me to suspend this matter while they continue their investigation. Sad news, isn't it? It's very, very, very sad news. Motorcyclist died in a car crash. So you hear a lot of people dying of motorcycles. I think just motor vehicles altogether. It only takes one juvenile not to, I mean, it doesn't even take a juvenile, does it really? Sometimes you can't see past your blind spot in your wing mirror. You try to pull out to get on the overtaking lane. It could be I haven't had an accident that happened yet, but I know sometimes when I pull out, I think, oh, what if a motorbike was just in my blind side or a car that you can see? That could, one little clip of your car, you could be turning your vehicle upside down. It's so dangerous in the M25. There's always a blind side of every part of your vehicle. Can't be off it. Anyway, OneWeb, UK satellite firm, does deal to use Indian rockets. Do you know what? I don't usually look into this kind of the cyberspace satellite stuff, but since the Crimean War and I read up on it, it really makes me think war can be won just by satellites. I like to read into it. So this is why I'm here again today. It's amazing. You know, there's something that I don't really find that interesting. I found actually interesting in the end. OneWeb, the satellite company part owned by the UK government, has done a deal to use Indian rockets. Arrangement will supplement a contract. The London headquartered firm has the American rival and rocket operator SpaceX of California. The new deal was announced as UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson headed to India for 2 days of talks. The firm was forced to look for alternatives when its deal with the Russian space agency fell apart. OneWeb said the first Indian launch of its broadband internet satellites could take place by the year's end. The spacecraft will go up from the Satish Dhawan Space Centre on Sherikota Island on the east of the country. The rocket to be used is likely to be India's Geocoronis satellite launch vehicle, GSLV, its largest and most capable vehicle. Some sort of deal with the new Space India commercial arm of the country's National Space Agency was expected. OneWeb's largest shareholder is the Indian conglomerate Bharti Global. Its chairman, Sunil Bharti Mittal, is also the executive chairman of OneWeb. This is yet another historic day for collaboration in space thanks to the shared ambition and vision of New Space India and OneWeb. He said in a statement, "The most recent argument on launch plans adds considerable momentum to the development of OneWeb's network as we work together across space industry towards our common goal of connecting communities globally." OneWeb's plan to build a global network of internet satellites in the sky was knocked off course in March by war in Ukraine. The conflict and the resulting Western sanctions against Russia led to the company losing access to Russian Soyuz rockets. With only 2/3 of the satellite's orbit needed to complete its network, OneWeb had little choice but to go SpaceX to book some rides on a California's outfit Falcon rockets. SpaceX is currently building its own spaceborne internet service called Starlink. OneWeb didn't say how much Indian launches it would use, or its contract with the New Space India was worth. The GSLV can lift about 9 tons to low Earth orbit, similar to the Soyuz. It was last used in 2019 to launch India's Chandrayaan 2 moon mission. OneWeb has so far launched 428 satellites, enough to provide internet broadband connections above 50 degrees north in latitude. It needs, however, to get 650 or to start delivering connections across the whole Earth. The company's intention is to expand later generations of network to encompass 7,000 satellites in orbit, meaning the GSLV could become a key component in the future of OneWeb's project. Building spaceborne internet systems is the vogue of the moment. As well as OneWeb and SpaceX Starlink, the Amazon online retailer is about to get into the market. Early this month, it signed the largest commercial launch deal ever, purchasing up to 83 launches from 3 separate rocket companies to loft its Cupier system. This would see more than 3,000 internet broadband satellites placed in low Earth orbit over a period of 5 years. I just want to give a shout out to my listeners at the moment. Thank you, Yunes. Thank you, Douglas Root, Dim Borbury, Chris Hawley, Christopher Nicholas Miller, Cassie Kirsten, Ryan Barnhart, Brenda Daniels, Exonia Young, Zoo, Kathy Brown, Elizabeth Hills. Thank you ever so much for tuning in to my show. Ashton, welcome. My nose is streaming. Just sharing my life. Just coming into the last segment. Essex man jailed. This is horrific, absolutely horrific news. It really is. I don't know what gets into people's heads like this. Essex man jailed for 8 years after committing more than 40 child sex offences. Police found thousands of indecent images and videos. An Essex man has been jailed for 8 years after being convicted of more than 40 child sex offences. John Gordon, 43, from Gersham Boulevard in Witton, was arrested in December 2018 after police carried out a warrant at his address. Absolute dirtbag. I'll say juvenile, but that's too polite. Officers from the police online investigation team, POLIT, found that Gordon has been engaged in sexual communication with someone he believed was a 13-year-old child. After Gordon was arrested, 33 items were seized. On 5 of the items seized, officers found more than 1,200 indecent images and videos of child abuse. Police also found 6,500 conversations held over Skype, which also held 900 contacts of young people. Through this, evidence was found that Gordon had communicated with both boys and girls under the age of 18. How on earth did they get away with it? Why are these child not letting their parents know? Gordon was charged with 45 sexual offences. Offences, including sexual communication with a child, inciting a child to perform sexual acts and indecent images of children offences. Gordon admitted the offences at Chelmsford Crown Court on February the 24th, 2022. In April 13, also at Chelmsford Crown Court, he was sentenced to a total of 8 years imprisonment. Detective Sergeant Samantha Lewin from Polit said Gordon is a dangerous sexual predator who sought out and preyed upon underage boys and girls for his own sexual gratification. He had a huge library of child abuse images and videos, and sheer number of charges he admitted to highlights the scale of his offending. I've no doubt Essex is a safer place now. It is behind bars. They need to get more of these absolute. Well, I don't know what gets into their head. I mean, did they lose that in their childhood? Didn't he have a girlfriend at school, or has he probably never had a girlfriend, or whatever? Boyfriend, girlfriend, what goes for their head? I wouldn't like to know what goes for their head. Please don't tell me. It's horrific, absolutely horrific. I can safely say I should have told him. I've never dated anyone under 34, and I don't think I want to.
Number 10, he is the leader of the country, and he's put on.
So he is responsible.
I mean, these are all quite reasonable things, but in the end, it's the minister who bears the burden of the mistakes, as you see in various other departments where mistakes have happened, which have not been the minister's fault.
And they've resigned.
The minister, in the end, has taken responsibility, as they did with Windrush, as Amber Rudd did with Windrush, which had nothing to do with her at the time. As Priti Patel is having to do with the failure to provide proper immigration passports for the terrible tragedies that are going on in Ukraine. And in the end, the minister, unfortunately, has to, at times, carry the can, and that's what the Prime Minister is doing.
Okay, good to speak to you. Thank you. Lord Jonathan Marland, Conservative peer, former minister, part of the team behind Boris Johnson's 2008 London mayoral campaign. Listening to that is Caroline Slowcock, who was the private secretary for Margaret Thatcher during her final 18 months as Prime Minister, now the director of the Civil Exchange think tank. Thank you for coming on the programme, Caroline. How does this get better for Johnson?
I think my sense, having worked directly for a Prime Minister who had to resign, is that he's now on the slide. I mean, I think the fact that he had to abandon his strategy of delaying the vote by putting down an amendment, and that the MPs just weren't there. Before, when that was announced, there were not that many MPs there. So I think, support is ebbing away from him. That's what he knows more clearly than we do, because they must have done the arithmetic. And, once that starts happening, it starts to fall away pretty fast. So my sense is that he's on a slide.
Well, Caroline, you and I both share something in that we have both worked for Conservative female Prime Ministers who have eventually been jettisoned by their own parties. And it just took me back, listening to Johnson speak in India, where he talked about, I want to get on with the job, this is what the British people want me to do, and that's what I'm going to be focused on. Took me back to Theresa May just after the 2017 general election, when really that's all we had to say. That's all we could say to get around it. And it became very clear quite quickly that it was a terminal slide to being jettisoned from office.
I mean, of course, it's so untrue, isn't it? Because he obviously isn't really getting on with the job.
But it's such a casual term, isn't it? Getting on with the job.
Yeah, well, I mean, drip, drip, drip. The fines, the photographs, all these things come out, and they're just, preventing him from actually doing things which he probably should be doing. But it's not the fault of the media, is it? It's the fault of him. He should have, when this first came out, he should have apologised.
The media could stop talking about it.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
The media could stop it, could stop talking about it, could stop asking him about it, couldn't they?
Well, they're following the news, and the news, it's a huge issue when a Prime Minister receives a fine for a criminal offence. I mean, that's never happened before. So, no, I think obviously some newspapers are trying to stop talking about it. If you look at the headlines of the Daily Mail, they seem to be, for example, just trying to talk about something different, or the Daily Telegraph. But, the public have an interest in this, and so does Parliament, because this is ultimately a question of whether he lied to Parliament. And this is the issue that he can't really walk away from. He can say sorry for this fine or that fine. But actually, if he's lied to Parliament, it's a resigning offence. It's in his own code of ministerial standards. And so, I think that it's right that we are talking about this. It's right that people are outraged about this, because you can't have a Prime Minister who who can't be trusted to tell the truth to Parliament, because that is to whom he's accountable. He's accountable to all of the MPs in Parliament, and particularly those on his backbenchers, because they have the power. And your previous speaker was sort of slagging off Steve Baker and saying, well, why is he talking about this? Well, this is how our democracy works. And, I very much related to what Steve Baker was saying about why people find excuses not to do anything about this, because it's difficult. It's really difficult stuff, and you've seen with Theresa May, and I saw with Margaret Thatcher. I was working for her as a civil servant, but I was the only other woman in the cabinet room when she resigned, and I saw her colleagues. I saw her crying and struggling to get out a resignation statement to them. But them, some of them crying and struggling to look her in the eye because of this sort of huge sense of betrayal that happens when this sort of thing occurs.
What's amazing, Caroline, sorry to cut across you, but what's amazing with this, if it is going to go that way, is it's entirely self-inflicted.
Yes, because his strategy is, if he's found out doing something wrong, he lies about it. It's probably a strategy he's used throughout his life and his career. And then, when he's sort of challenged about the lies, he just starts blaming other people, the civil servants, as you were hearing from the previous speaker, the civil servants who let him down, and how he had to change number 10. And then he starts, sort of putting up smoke screens and just trying to push the issues away. But it's become transparent. It's like the Emperor's new clothes. I think people can see it. And I think that, what Steve Baker was describing today was that he was trying to forgive him. He was trying to ignore this. But in the end, he just couldn't.
Caroline?
And something has to be done.
Thank you very much indeed for your time. Caroline Slowcock, you were the private secretary for Margaret Thatcher during her final year and a half as Prime Minister, director of the Civil Exchange think tank. Boris Johnson stood on the steps of Downing Street several years ago now and said that the doomsters and the gloomsters would be proven wrong again. So if you are someone that is being lifted up by Boris Johnson, you're still a fan, you think he's good, and all this stuff about Partygate is just fluff, plot us the route through the next few months for the Prime Minister, which I think are looking increasingly dangerous. And I think what Steve Baker suggested tonight might mark the beginning of the end. Because if fine after fine rains down, if this committee, as it has the right to, requests photographs of the events that Johnson was at or possibly fined for, plot me a route from here that gets better for the Prime Minister to the point where he is able, as he wants to do, to lead the party into the next election. Because right now, I don't see it. Do you? 1019.
LBC.
Collect a 25,000 Avios welcome bonus with the new Barclaycard Avios Plus credit card when you spend £3,000 in your first 3 months. That could whisk you from everyday to getaway. Check your eligibility now. Search Barclaycard Avios Plus. Representative example, 72.4% APR representative variable. Purchase rate per annum, 23.9% variable. Based on a credit limit of £1,200. £20 monthly fee. Subject to application and financial status. Eligibility and conditions apply. Welcome bonus for new customers only.
You want a great new car with thousands, choose online. We deliver it for free so you can save your time. Every car includes a warranty. That's just what we do. And we guarantee you'll learn, we'll give your money back to you.
Whether you're buying online or through our trusted dealers, feel good your way with Hey Car. T's and C's apply.
A word to all drivers. With Free Now, the mobility super app, you can expect a lot more of this.
Been busy tonight, driver.
Until we get there.
What time do you finish?
But on the plus side, when you join the Free Now driver community, you'll have access to our ever-growing passenger base. Sign up today and get 0% commission in your first 30 days. You'll also get a £200 bonus after completing 50 trips in 14 days of onboarding. We hope this makes up for more of the same old questions.
Busy night?